Hey guys, Pastor Tim. Thanks for taking just a moment to do a little rewind from the message on Sunday. This past Sunday, I talked about God's top 10, number 4, and that is remembering the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Command of God. Remember, the 10 commandments are not meant to harness our fun, but to protect us from pain. And this particular command is so practical for us and a challenge for all of us, especially those of us who are just busy all the time. God wants us to set aside a time, a day out of our week to rest. In fact, that's what the word Sabbath means. It means to rest, to cease, to desist from work. Why was it that God asks us to do this? Well, He did it. And the habits of heaven, listen, need to be the habits of earth. In fact, Paul talks about in Colossians chapter 2, verses 16 and 17, he says this, "Therefore, let no one act as your judge in regard to food or drink or a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath, things which are a mere," listen to this word, "shadow of what is to come, but the substance," an important word, "belongs to Christ." The substance belongs to Christ. These other rules and regulations are simply a shadow. They're a reflection, not really a reflection, but a shadow of things to come. Who came? Who's he talking about? Really, that fulfills this. That is Jesus Christ. It's interesting. Hebrews talks about something very interesting from heaven. A pattern of heaven was established upon earth. A pattern from heaven was established upon earth. The godly pattern of heaven is 1 day and 7 to rest. So is that rest and that Sabbath, is it about 1 day out of the week? Is it about Saturday? We have to celebrate on that Sabbath day. Is it about the Lord's Day that the early Christians celebrated? Or is it about more than that? You know, the scribes and Pharisees added layer upon layer of rules and regulations from the Old Testament law, and Jesus sidestepped many of those and elevated human need above rules and regulations. He didn't break the Sabbath, but he certainly sidestepped some of these additional rules and regulations that the scribes and Pharisees added onto that. Why did he do that? Why did he think that was okay? He did it because the human heart is so powerful, is so important. He came to reach us and to save us. It's interesting, the disciples gathered in Jerusalem to talk about rules and regulations. And Peter, I think it was, that stood up and said, listen, we couldn't fulfill all of the Old Testament laws, all of these things. Why are we laying this burden and this weight upon our Greek fellow believers? Let's narrow things down. Listen, in narrowing things down, let's consider this. The Sabbath equals rest. That's the bottom line. Nowhere in the Bible does God say the Sabbath is about worship. Now, certainly we can worship on the Sabbath day, but God said it was about rest. So I want to elevate this as Jesus did, above and beyond simply worshiping on a particular day. In fact, Jesus met the woman at the well. Do you remember that story? The Samaritan woman. She was seeking, she was searching. And Jesus said, listen, I've got water that you can drink of. And he said, in response to her question about worship specifically, there's a day coming when those who worship will worship in spirit and in truth. I think what he was saying was, it's not about a place. It's not about worshiping in Samaria. It's not about worshiping in Jerusalem. It's about a relationship with God. And we know that that relationship comes through Jesus Christ alone. Jesus came to fulfill the law and complete the law. He is the Lord of the Sabbath. And for me, I find the greatest rest in Jesus Christ, who stood up on the last day of that great feast and said, all who are weary and thirsty, come to me, for I will give you, remember what he said? Rest. Rest. A Sabbath rest is found most importantly in Jesus Christ, in a relationship with him. So it's spiritually significant. God knows we need to be refreshed. It's physically significant. We need rest. Doctors will tell you, you need rest. Your body needs rest. We all need rest. And so I encourage you, as you think about the Sabbath and as this command from God, that you would take it beyond the pages of the Bible and apply it to your heart and say to yourself, you know what? I need to check the gauges of my life, spiritually, physically. Am I grabbing from the bottom of an empty barrel? Am I being refreshed? Do I take a day of rest? Or do I just work constantly? God wants us to rest. Would you pray about that? Maybe even adding somebody in your life that would check your gauges and say, hey, for me it'd be, hey, Tim, You're working too hard. You need to rest. Are you following God's pattern in heaven, in earth, and taking a day of rest? I hope you do. We'll catch you again. All right. Bye-bye.